Nephew of NBA star John Wall was convicted today of attempted second-degree murder. The road rage shooting in Germantown left a young woman in a wheelchair. Tonight, we're talking with her about the ordeal and her anger that she wasn't allowed inside the courtroom because of her disability. Fox 5's Lindsay Watts is in Rockville.
The woman shot in this case was 19 years old when this happened. She says she is determined to get rid of that wheelchair and walk again.
When I was in the hospital, I remember that first week there, and I couldn't even sit up on my bed. Like, I would literally just flop back down.
So, the nephew of John Wall, the former Wizard great, he was great. He was with us for, let's say, better part of 10 years. Made it about 3-4 all-star teams. Dynamite in the community. Dynamite guy. You know, he grew up thug and down there in Charlotte. He was a shooter. He was a little, knucklehead and all that stuff. He was into the street life, but he was tall and he could play ball. And he was able to, go to a great university and for 1 year and then be the number one pick in the NBA draft. So salute to John Wall. I don't think this is anything that, besmirches John's, this is just it just jumps out at you, man. But this young lady, man, suburban DC, glacier glider with a, Spanish surname, still a glacier glider. Could you imagine what she was thinking when she found out this is the cousin that John Wall brought up from North Carolina so that he would stay out of trouble? John Wall brought his cousin up from North Carolina to keep him out of trouble because he was getting in a lot of trouble down here. John Wall said, "Come live with me, man. I make $40 million a year. I live in the suburbs of DC. Come stay with me." And he ended up in this situation. There's no solution. There's no cure. There's nothing can be done. Hit one if you understand what I'm saying now.
When I was in the hospital, I remember that first week there, and I couldn't even sit up on my bed. Like, I would literally just flop back down.
Elimar DePaula has made incredible progress in the last 2 years. Forced to relearn how to walk after a stranger on the road changed her life at age 19.
Those are supposed to be your best years of your life, and I feel like they kind of got robbed from me,
It was this man, DeAndre Wall, who got angry at DePaula's then-boyfriend for cutting him off in Germantown. So angry, he followed them.
Okay. He got cut off. Think about this. How many of you guys I drive a lot. I'm up and down the East Coast. You get cut off sometime. And I'm talking about, I've been doing this for a while, so even before I had my family with me, you just follow the person. Like, I'm talking about, just through roads and stop signs and turns, and they do that. And you have to be aware of that. That okay, you cut somebody off, they flicked you off or they yelled something out the window. And you're like, oh, that guy's a jerk. And you're just, no, you need to keep looking and see if this guy's, because he'll die for that. He'll kill for that. He'll do 100 years in prison for that. You may think, well, this is just a small thing. Who would ruin their life over this? A guy who lives with his cousin who makes $40 million a year. Who probably gets an allowance, probably hasn't paid for anything could probably ask his cousin for $100,000 and get it. That guy would blow it all because you cut him off.
It was this man, DeAndre Wall, who got angry at DePaula's then boyfriend for cutting him off in Germantown. So angry, he followed them.
Mr. Wall unloaded 5 shots into this car.
A bullet went through the passenger seat into DePaula's back. Doctors told her her spinal cord was severed. Wall is the nephew of former Washington Wizards player John Wall. During trial, it was revealed the suspect texted Wall about the gun he bought, then texted again after the crime. He shared a community bulletin about the shooting, saying he might need a lawyer and asking his uncle to get him a hotel room out of state. Wall agreed.
See, none of those text messages to John Wall make me feel like John Wall had something to do with this. He brought his cousin up from Carolina because his cousin was thugging down there and he wanted to help. He thought, okay, basketball saved my life. I was a little thug. Basketball saved my life. You know, I had to, go to college, excel, go to all the camps, improve myself, and, play in the NBA for a few years and earn a huge contract. I'll take my nephew and boom, he already has this because I have it. So he doesn't even have to work. Basketball can save his life instantly. He won't have to go through a 5-year process of basketball saving his life. So who's the first person the nephew calls after he shoots some people who cut him off in traffic after he followed them? Who's the first person he calls? Of course, he's going to call his cousin. So this doesn't reflect on John Wall in a negative way. Hit 1 if you agree with me on that. Of course, he's going to call John. Of course, John's going to be like, oh, man, what have I done? But he's going to look out for his nephew.
Revealed the suspect texted Wall about the gun he bought, then texted again after the crime. He shared a community bulletin about the shooting, saying he might need a lawyer and asking his uncle to get him a hotel room out of state. Wall agreed.
Confirmation that the shooter in this case was discussing this with John Wall.
State's Attorney John McCarthy also tells us that after the victim in the case testified, she wasn't allowed in the courtroom to watch the rest of the trial. Prosecutors say the judge ruled DePaula being in a wheelchair could be prejudicial.
And y'all talking about racism and bias. They wouldn't let the victim come into the courtroom because she's in a wheelchair. And if the jury saw her in a wheelchair, it would be prejudicial to the son defendant. Okay? That's how racist this country is. And that's how racist this court system is. That this guy followed these people, stalked them, then shot into the car haphazardly, paralyzed the girl. Okay. Then fled the scene. She's in a wheelchair. But they're worried about whether her presence, the victim, will sway the hearts and minds of the jury because they'll say, oh my God, he put this girl in a wheelchair. Even though they know it, they're just seeing it. And it will tamper with their, their rendering of a verdict. So they were like, sorry, Glacie, sorry, Glady, you can't come in because it's gonna make it hard on the brother. And we got here about racism and criminal justice. And they just getting started. It's about to get way easier than this. It's about to get way more easier for them. I mean, us. It's about to get way more easier for us in the future. Thanks to them sisters out there fighting for criminal justice reform. Thanks, sisters. Salute to all my sisters out there.
State's Attorney John McCarthy also tells us that after the victim in the case testified, she wasn't allowed in the courtroom to watch the rest of the trial. Prosecutors say the judge ruled DePaula being in a wheelchair could be prejudicial.
What was your reaction to that?
It kind of just caught me off guard because I wasn't expecting them to deny me like something that should be my right.
DePaula says she feels she was discriminated against because of the wheelchair. She was able to watch the trial on Zoom, but says all she could see was the judge.
Yeah, I wanted to be there for my ex-boyfriend's testimony.
She will get to be there for Wall's sentencing in January. He's facing up to 60 years behind bars. DePaula says every day she gets stronger, vowing to defy the doctors who told her she wouldn't walk again. And when she faces the man responsible,
I would tell him that I forgive him.
Who thinks he would have forgiven her if she cut him off in traffic? He wouldn't forgive them for cutting him off in traffic. And this is his words. Like, they might not have even done that. They might have had the right of way or something. But let's just say he's right. They like, darky. Let's just say they cut him off in traffic, right? He didn't forgive them for that. And tried to kill her for it. But she forgives him for that. Y'all, all we got to hear about is racism.
and when she faces the man responsible,
I would tell him that I forgive him.
and she says it's taken her a lot of time to get to this point. State's Attorney McCarthy says when it comes to the victim not being allowed in the courtroom, he hasn't seen anything like this in his 40-year career. We'll be following up. Back to you.